The next Lee and Ian podcast is approaching the station. Please step aside.
Hey, hey, hey! It's the Lee and Ian Show, starring Ian Grodman and Lee Navlin. Today's special guest is psychotherapist Amy Cox-Martins.
Not psychotherapist.
Psychotherapist. That's
yes.
right. No, I'm the psycho.
Yeah,
okay,
that's true.
That's
we do
right.
have a psycho here in Lee Navlin.
That's right. Now, the Lee and Ian podcast is sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation. When it comes to divorce, remember, family first, Grodman Mediation.
Thank you, Lee.
Amy Cox-Martins, welcome to the show. Thank you so
Hi.
much for coming.
Amy.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's Martins, right? Amy
Yeah, there's an S on the
Cox-Martins
end.
with an S.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
not like Billy Martin, the old Yankee manager. He was Billy Martin.
Yeah.
You're Martin, so no relation, obviously.
Well, once I sponsored a little baseball team and a Valley Psychotherapy, and they were the psychos.
The psycho.
I love that.
Yeah, it was fun.
I liked it. Yes, yes. So Amy, I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
You and I actually took a writing class together
Yeah.
years ago. That was at the Writers' Workshop with Judith Lindbergh.
The circle.
Yeah, it was the writing class. Yeah, it was the Judith Lindbergh, right? It was
Yeah.
the
Writer's Circle.
Writer's Circle. That's right. Which was so.
Yeah.
So I was writing a book. You were writing a book. Now, did you ever finish your book?
No, it was about my life as a foster mother, and my daughter doesn't like me talking about her, so I stopped.
Yeah. No, my book I finished. It was about my wife, and I did finish it, and it's
Yeah,
available where all
congratulations
books
on
are
that.
sold. By the way,
And what's the name
Amazon.
of that book?
Secretary of the City by Lee Navlin. It's not really about my wife. It's about a secretary who works in the city. My wife is a secretary who works in the city. Not about her, but about someone who could be her.
But it's a great fun read.
I like
great
to
fun
read
read.
Take a look at
Get
it.
it.
That's right. So that's when Amy and I met when we
Yeah.
were in a writing class years and years ago. We got to be very good friends, and
Because I laughed at all of Lee's jokes.
She did. She laughed at all. And there was only one in the class.
You're an automatic friend.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Automatic friend. I was like, yeah, I don't know if she likes me, but she thinks I'm funny. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But Amy, we wanted to have you on the podcast because you specialize in transgender, gender non-conforming, LGBTQ, depression, trauma, anxiety. This is kind of your focus of your practice,
Yep,
the
it
therapy
is.
that you offer,
Yes.
especially with young people.
Yeah, I work with a lot of teens because my office is walking distance from the high school.
Okay, so talk a little bit about, why don't we talk a little bit how you got into this field of expert, because I know you've been doing it for a long time, and maybe to some people this is a fairly new phenomenon in young people. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and pardon me if I'm not, but I just want to get into you kind of being on the forefront of something that's a very serious issue
Well, now it's-
today.
Right.
No one could have
Politically
predicted how it.
Right, I mean the Trump administration has
Yeah.
used it, to get votes.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's
And trying to erase people, too.
trying to erase people.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Right,
Well,
so-
how I got into it was there was the town was totally shook when a very beloved transgender person suicided.
and that was here in Selma.
They were in college when they suicided,
But
but it was a shock because
Okay.
the person was so well loved.
Right. And so they committed suicide. And
Then I went for specific training for transgender health.
Oh, that's interesting. So basically, that was kind of where you said,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
in this. What was this in the 90s or more recently? Or?
It was I got the training 10 years ago, so
Okay, right. So wow, so that kind of said, okay, I got to look into
I got
this
to
as a
figure out
professional.
how to help. And also, I started seeing more and more, kids, the middle school and high school being non-binary, and wanted to be astute with my work.
Here's a question now. There are people that live outside the area, outside the state, and I'm not saying, and I'm doing devil's advocate type stuff here. This is not my thought process. This is not how I think, but how they might say, what's going on up there? What's going on in that area? Why are there so many kids that are thinking in these terms? Is this a follow the leader type of thing? I want to be cool. I want to be, I'm going to be non-binary so I can kind of seem like I stand out. I'm a little different. Or is this,
Well,
or is this a
luckily
little
there's
different than that?
enough positive examples of trans around, and parents and other older teens, so that they're mentors where there used to not be as many you know, publicly, and so kids realize if they have this feeling on the inside. Like the thing about trans, it's a deep feeling inside. I mean, sure, some kids might want to. No, it is a journey. They experiment with who they are, what their identity is, and but true trans is not just a whim.
A passing phase.
Right. It's not. It's very real and very serious.
Right.
And it's also can be genetic. You know, a male may have a high level of estrogen in his body already, which makes him feel female, and the opposite could be a female could have a high level of testosterone. There's a disorder for women, I mean females, called PCOS. I'm not quite sure what that stands for, but it's a condition with a high level of testosterone, and many people with PCOS transition to male.
Okay, so they're born male, but or they're born female, and so so there is a chemical.
Can be. Certainly can be.
Right. Now, Ian and I, we had sons, grew up together, and they both graduated high school in 2017. Ian and I started to see some of their friends. Right, Ian?
Yeah. There's two in particular we were talking about.
We talked about two, right? You know that were kind of part of the group, and that's when I started to first hear, so and so identifies as a boy, and I was the parent that was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, okay, that's probably what it is,
And I wasn't.
And right, and Ian wasn't, and I never said anything rude to the children. I mean,
Right,
I love
didn't.
kids. Hey, you are who you are, and and I like it.
You really try to respect their pronoun.
Right, you try to respect the pronoun.
Yep.
Parents, my question to you is this: your sons, your daughter, they're 10, they're 11, they're 12. These inner feelings start to come out. What does a parent do? How do they respond? How do they react?
Well, that's part of what I do. A lot of working with parents, helping them through the journey of their child's transition, if that's what we're headed toward, and help them. I have a lot of resources. There are local groups. One is called Rad Kids from North Jersey Pride. Lots of groups for parents with trans youth.
Okay.
So they could be together.
Is there one locally here? Like you mentioned, one that's available through North
Well,
Jersey Pride.
Rad Kids was local. I'm not sure if it's still running. Find out. It's Rad Kids at northjerseypride.com.
Okay. So there are. So the first thing you would recommend as a parent, get online and start to do some research and start to look locally where they could obviously find some resources and support groups and you obviously as a therapist as well.
Yeah.
When it's a patient comes in, he's 11, they're 11, they're 11. Where do you go? How do you crack that egg, so to speak? And get to the core of the problem. Is it? I mean, I would imagine everyone is obviously different, but
yeah.
It's such a sensitive thing. I give birth. My wife and I give birth to a boy, and we love our son, and we always wanted a son, and all of a sudden, we start to hear things, and we can't believe it, and we're incredulous, and then we take our son to a therapist who says, "Hey, there's a lot going on here." Can you talk a little bit about what that's been like?
A deep assessment. I mean, before the child could go on hormones or do anything for transition, has to be a deep assessment.
Okay.
Of where we're at.
And that was that with like.
And from the political side, I think that's a very important point that Amy's bringing out. Right? We hear talk about the current president talking about kids going to school and leaving school a different sex than they were when they entered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right?
that's
and
impossible.
I think what Amy's saying is a very important point for people to understand that there's deep assessments, there's deep therapy and counseling, often coupled with medical.
Yeah, the
doctors and-
endocrinologist won't prescribe hormones without working the person working with a therapist and having that assessment.
Yeah, so is that a year-long process, a 2-year-long process? You know, what just for people out there that don't understand, this isn't just a kid saying, hey, I'm a girl, and okay, all right, well, let's get the ball rolling on that and make that happen for you. It's obviously not even close to that, maybe.
Well, often kids come in and are non-binary, where they embrace both their masculine and feminine sides.
Okay, that's
And
non-binary.
so
Okay.
often the pronoun is they, them.
Right.
Which for some people that's hard. It's hard because it's
Right.
not
Yeah,
standard
It's not
English.
the grammar we learn.
Grammar, right.
Right. Well, you know what happened? Like, my son would be like, oh, you know, they need a ride. I'm like, we only have room for one in the car. You know, that was a true story once. You know, it was like 3 of us in the car. He's like, they need a ride. And he was talking about one person. And this is back when he was a kid.
And saying them.
The argument I had with him in a car, I'm like, we only have room for one.
How
You know,
many?
he's-
How many is that?
Right, so that's a real thing. So we've had that debate. You know, he's 12. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, you moron. You know? I'm like, but anyway, true story. But the process of them coming in.
Yeah. I mean, it starts with the parents. You gotta
Right.
work with the parents.
Do you get pushback from parents? The parents say, "Not my kid, not my kid." Do you get that?
Recently, I was working with a couple of parents, and the mother wanted to know if their son had a high level of estrogen, could they be prescribed testosterone to, you know, to get rid of the estrogen to be the boy that he's supposed to be. But that's not a thing. It's, you know.
That's not a thing. Like,
That's
hey,
not a thing. We don't do that.
we could fix this. There's
Yeah.
nothing to fix. This is who the person is.
That's right. And that person was an adult, so I was helping the parents understand their adult is entitled to how they feel.
So the therapy you do is not only with the child, obviously, it's with the family as well. I mean, I would imagine, you know, grandparents. There's got to be a whole, like, you know, brother is what, you know, and then you've got to work with this. Boy, it's challenging work. I would imagine. Now, obviously, your practice is here in SOMA.
Yeah.
Are you finding families from other parts of New Jersey, other parts of the state? Because sometimes, again, I'll hear...
They have to be in New Jersey for
you to deal with them.
In New Jersey.
Because, you know, I have relatives in Florida, for instance. Ian, I was telling you about this. And, you know, they're to the right of Ian. Very much to the right of Ian.
In Florida.
That's right. To the right of me,
Yeah.
obviously. But, you know, they might say, and I'm not talking about anyone specifically in my family, but they might say, what's going on up there in that region? It's there. That's where it's happening. It's not happening in other parts of the world, not other parts of the country. What might your response be to the grandparent who, you know, the Korea
Well, it
Korean
depends
vet,
where they're
you
getting
know.
their information. I mean, I feel that the Trump administration is so anti-science. I mean, think about the kids born intersex with, you know,
Right.
two sets of genitals. And so in that case, the parents wait for the child to see you know, how, as they grow older, which gender they will be. But,
Right.
you know, I mean, and once again, it's biological, and, you know, how awful to be like trying to erase these kids with these,
That's right.
you know.
Because that is what's going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the people from the outside of the scope, I mean, if you can't get through their head, hey, this is what needs to happen, what happens to these kids who don't get the parental care and loving and understanding? Now, you talked about a suicide.
Yeah. Well, we'll start, first of all, only 1% of the population is trans. So we're not talking about huge numbers.
Right.
I mean, there are huge numbers, but still
1%.
1% is a lot of people.
And they'll make it, the Republicans will make it like this is some
epidemic.
epidemic out of control, 1%.
Yeah.
1%. I mean, that's when you talk nationwide, we're talking about 3 million people, right?
3 million.
It's not
Right.
a small number.
Right. Yeah.
And the Republicans, and again, you know, and I'm not. If you're a Republican out there, I'm not focused on you. I'm just talking about in general. I mean, your Republicans want lower taxes. Okay, you've made transgender an issue for you. They've made sporting events. We can't have this because we can't have men wanting to become women so that they could win gold medals, you know, or they could be the best player in the best. That to me was the most ridiculous argument of them all.
Here's one more ridiculous. You are doing this so you can get into the women's bathroom and see what's going on.
Okay,
Oh,
right,
yeah,
exactly. So
that's
1% of the
ridiculous.
population, and 1% of 1% of the population
Right.
would be this insane.
Well, once again, it's anti-science. Like, so trans women in sports are women. I mean, they have the hormones. Their muscles aren't as strong as
Right.
if they were men. They're women. You
Yeah.
know, so it's once again they're not paying attention to the
science,
science.
right? So the brain is following the body's chemistry. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's again. So this is not mental illness, right?
Not at all.
This is not mental illness.
No, it's completely not.
This is
mental
okay.
illness.
Yeah, I mean,
Although they can have depression, they can have what's called dysphoria. Gender. Their body dysmorphia.
yeah.
Where
Which is what?
they are very depressed about their physical self,
Okay.
their body.
And I guess a lot of anxiety
Yeah,
goes along with
like
it
when you
also.
have to look at this body that you don't feel you are every day, and it can be depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get kids in there that were like, I just want to be a boy, and I don't know why I have these feelings, and that makes them miserable.
And if I could ask Amy, like when Lee is saying they just want to be a boy, right? I think it's more that they feel like they are a boy. It's not
Right,
that
they
they
are,
want to be a boy.
and
right?
many cases they expressed that, like moms would say their daughter always wanted to wear boys' clothes and never wanted to wear a dress. There can be signs, but there doesn't necessarily have to be.
Right.
There's no one formula.
Yeah.
How it is.
Now,
But it's so internal. You just have no idea how people are suffering in the wrong body.
these young people transition, or they begin to transition.
Yeah.
Do you warn them? Hey, this is a
Yes,
tough
yes.
world out there.
It's
People are not
called,
going to
yes.
understand this.
Well, yes, it's called informed consent. So, if they want to go on hormones, my job is to explain, exactly what the hormones are going to do, and and we do talk about situations that may be not as safe, but to be aware of. There's also people out there who want to harm
Absolutely.
or abuse, or
dangerous
murder.
world out there
I mean,
to be to be
awful.
minority of any type
Absolutely.
of minority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, Lee, we live in this bubble of SOMA, right? But even in SOMA, there are people, maybe the age of the three of us, people like in their 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
who don't understand this, right?
Right.
Right.
And because they don't understand it, there's going to be some inclination to have some predisposed prejudices. It's really just, first we have to try to understand, right? And if you can't understand, you have to find a way to accept, right? You've got to accept people for who they are.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think that's, I'm getting into political stuff here, but I think that's the biggest problem that we have in our country right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah, sure, right.
I think Amy talking about this issue in particular is really helpful today.
Yeah, right. It's not my backyard. Basically is how I'm reading that. Yeah, so we talk about hormone therapy. Okay, they say, Amy, I want to remove my breasts. I'm ready for that. What is that conversation like in the therapeutic setting?
Well,
imagine
it's
it's a lot
after
of
the
conversations.
assessment of, and also asking, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you see yourself as, if you're, say, a gender boy, do you see yourself as a woman, becoming a woman? There's lots of questions in the assessment. So that's before you would send them to the endocrinologist.
Okay, for that. Now,
That would typically be over a course of time, right? It's
Yeah.
not like they would come one time.
That's not.
and
There's
say,
not one set
Right.
amount of time, but if you get a time for the, thorough assessment. I mean, it's not one time. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
That's
it's
The
what-
medical
that's what-
diagnosis amongst specialists and all.
I think
yeah,
that's
and
really
you want to
important
want to
understand.
rule out any other underlying comorbid, depression. You want to make sure they're going into this feeling stable.
Yeah, right. So have you ever had a situation where, because you've heard this, I think Trump said it, that they realized they made a mistake and it was not the right thing to have done, but it was too late. Has that ever crossed your desk, so to
It's a
speak?
very minimal statistic. I don't have this
Right.
statistic, but very minimal that people reverse
Right.
the.
And say, what have I done? Or I don't want to do this. Okay, so
Yeah, it's not that common.
yeah, well, I mean, this is like harder than anything. What Amy's doing harder than anything I've ever done in my life. I can't even imagine, being confronted with
Well, you
this.
just want to be compassionate to these
Compassion is really what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever had a kid come there and the kid is like, yeah, this is what I want, and you're like, you're full of crap. This
No.
isn't for you. You're just playing me.
No.
No. Okay.
Every human being wants to be understood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adults and children too.
Yeah.
So,
Everybody wants to be heard and understood. I think that's really a great
Right.
way to put it. And I think that's something that we need to value a little bit more
Yeah.
in our country right now.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So you must have people in there who they must lose it and crying, and someone finally understands me. Someone doesn't think I'm nuts or a creep or whatever else they're being told by. Because family is rough.
Right.
Family
yeah.
can be.
Grandparents are tough too.
Grandparents,
Right.
older brothers. I mean, even older sisters. You're picking on a different kid.
Generally they're not picked on. They're just accepted.
Right.
From my experience.
Yeah. It's.
And who cares if they want to be a they them?
Yeah.
Embrace both your sides. We all have a feminine and masculine side.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think also, with the pronouns, right? I think, again, like people our age, where people using non-traditional pronouns is something that only came about really as we've gotten older, right? And
Right.
so it's just an adjustment, right? Most of the transgender people that I know, if you slip, and don't refer to them as they, them,
Yeah.
they're accepting of that. As long as you
Yeah.
make an effort to accept them and make
Right.
an effort, they realize that people are going to slip. That's been my experience.
Right.
And I think that's really important. So I think what you're saying, Amy, to be compassionate, right? If this is who somebody is, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, I take it at their word that that's who they are.
Yeah.
Right? And I will do my best to try to conform my own behavior
Yeah, that's
based
awesome.
on who they say that they are. Like I have
Yeah.
no reason to question it. It's not my business.
Right. Yeah. No. Absolutely.
They usually aren't upset if you misgender them. The person themselves, it's more the people around. No, you got it wrong. You got it wrong.
Yes, yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
So Amy. Okay. So going back to your areas of specialization.
Yeah.
Okay. You have transgender. Okay. Now transgender. Define transgender a little bit. We have been, but maybe just because I want to transgender versus gender non-conforming versus LGBTQ. Kind of maybe just.
Well, it's all kind of in the same thing. They're not conforming to the birth gender.
Okay, that's okay. So can I be gender non-conforming but not transgender? Does that make
No,
sense?
it's a huge umbrella.
Okay.
Transgender includes, non-binary as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever have patients go in there and say, "Yeah, what's going on? I think I'm gay," and they're not gay. They're transgender, or I think I'm transgender, but they're not. They're just gay. How do you peel those layers? I guess.
Well, if someone tells me they're gay, I'm not gonna question it.
Right. Yeah. So you're not gonna say, "Well, let's I'll be the decider of that." Nothing like that. Yeah. It's man.
Well, even in today's world, and even in SOMA, I mean, even some of the kids the people I work with, they're even if they're gay, sometimes the parents and the grandparents have a problem with that. I guess
Sure.
Yeah,
the
right.
Trumpers.
Yeah, yeah.
There's still people sent to what is the what do they call it when parents send their kids to try to convert them? Conversion
Yeah,
therapy.
no,
Conversion
that's
therapy.
illegal.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's illegal. Conversion therapy
Is illegal.
That's my computer.
In the entire
It's
country.
Sorry about
abuse.
that. Yeah.
Is it illegal throughout the country or just in the areas where we are?
I
Do you
don't know
Okay.
if all 50 states make it illegal.
Okay.
Right, yeah,
Good,
yeah,
I hope
'cause-
that's the case.
So, but I mean, there's underground conversion therapy, which is, I guess, setting up to the church and that type of thing, and having a priest
Yes, the
or
church.
whatnot.
Well, the thing
Yeah,
that's
you
a
know.
that's a I don't think it's anywhere in the Bible that against trans.
That's very interesting.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah. All right, so this is your practice. You're in South Orange. You've
Yeah.
been there for how many years now? You've been in this
I've been
area?
a therapist 32 years.
And how long have you lived in SOMA? You've been here for quite some time.
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, what do you love about SOMA? What do you love about this community, and especially with the type of work you do?
Yeah.
It must be very fulfilling when you see the township committees in both towns embracing the people that you care so much about.
The one thing I love, my office faces the South Orange flagpole, and when they raise the trans inclusive pride flag.
That must have been
I'm
pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that must have been pretty cool. And but you just see, our mayors on both sides. I mean, was it always like this? Did you always feel you had the political backing of the community, or was this a slow change, a slow burn? Did you have a problem with the former vice mayor at any given time?
Well, I don't recall any
Vice Mayor Ian
negativity.
Rodman. Yeah.
I don't recall any negativity from
Right. Okay. Yeah.
administrations.
Yeah. How about from other communities? Have you ever gotten backlash from? Have you ever gotten backlash? Period. I guess.
No, I don't get backlash. No, I'm not aware of backlash
Yeah.
unless someone's talking behind my back. I don't know.
Right. Right.
And when
Okay.
people talk about Amy and I shared office space many, many years
Yeah.
ago, right? That's how
Okay.
we
Yeah.
became friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, and also, as a mediator, I tell a lot of my family mediation clients, that therapy is just as important as speaking with the legal professionals, right? And so
Right.
Amy and I have referred people back and forth to each other over the years. And I can tell you that anybody I know who's ever worked with Amy just thinks the world of her.
100%.
and
Thank you.
her ability as a psychotherapist. Incredibly well regarded locally.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's funny because when I met Amy years ago, it was like we met, in a writing class.
In the writing class,
I didn't know if Amy was from here or there. We just, she was just laughing
At your jokes.
right? And I found what she was writing very, very fascinating, and because I knew I was dealing with intelligent
I
women.
should go back to it.
But what happened was I would leave, and I don't know, and then it seemed like then Facebook kind of came around, and I was like, oh, here she's Amy, and like 200 mutual friends. It was like
Yeah, right,
everybody,
yeah, and
everybody I
local.
knew Amy,
Right.
but we just
Local,
whatever reason
yeah.
we had never run in the same. But I didn't realize this was your specialty. This was your focus, and then I started to find out that some of my friends.
Well, I work with people who are not trans too.
Right,
General population.
Right, but by the way, let's clear that. So let's talk about good transition. Psychotherapy. Okay. Talk a little bit about psychotherapy. I was reading a little bit about it on your wall. Very interesting. You kind of talk a little bit about how something that happens when you're a small child might be the reason you can't speak publicly. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned that,
Right.
and how that kind of plays into.
Well, I mean, my training has been psychoanalytic. Well, it's developmental psychology, so we pay a lot of attention to how the person developed over the years and things that may have affected them over the growing up.
Right.
Yeah, that's one way. And also, I do a treatment called EMDR, which is an eye movement treatment, which is for anxiety and depression.
Okay.
And trauma too. It's very cool. It's based on the brain, how the optic nerve is connected to the limbic area of the brain, which is your memories, and with your eyes moving back and forth, it can help stimulate memories, and then we try to overlay the memories with emotions, positive emotions, if we can.
And
That's one way.
And you work with all age groups. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So you have
Well, I got off Medicare. I don't work with too many people. I don't work with too many, 65 and older.
guys like Ian's age.
Not quite. Getting there, but not quite.
Yeah.
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 Amy and I are similar ages, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So would I be
old.
would I be the young one of the group here?
Yes, you probably are.
That's soon to be 58 years of age. Yeah. I like being the young one, by the way. That's why I do the podcast with Ian. We were thinking of changing the name, but Lee and the old guy, something like that. But
I like being the young one too.
Lee
but
and Ian
unfortunately,
is a
I don't
good,
get to
catchy.
like that very much.
it happens less and less.
Yes.
My wife and I were at a restaurant a couple days ago. I'm looking around. I go, we're the oldest one in this room by 20 years. You know what I mean? And but not mature wise. Mature wise,
There we go, right.
mature wise, we were at the we were all.
You were the hip oldsters.
That's right. We were the hip bosses. Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
so Amy,
Yeah.
so moving forward, where do you what changes do you see? What kind of damage can Trump do to these people? What's the biggest issues politically?
Well, like I told you, I used to be the social work supervisor at a LGBTQ teen center in Newark called Hetrick-Martin Institute, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And Hetrick-Martin, New York was the first, in the 80s, was the first LGBTQ teen center in New York. So it's historic. And I was doing social work back then when they opened. I remember that. So I loved working at Hetrick-Martin, New Jersey. Sadly, they offered free services for teens in Newark. And then they lost their funding and closed. It was very sad. So I kept up. I offer a free group in Maplewood. I've been given free space to do this. So Wednesday nights, 6:45, every Wednesday night,
that's great.
almost every Wednesday night, unless we have a rule. There's about 8 kids, but if we're down to 2, we may cancel the group.
Right,
if everybody can't come for the high school play or something. Yeah.
Right.
So we have this
And that's on
weekly
Wednesdays.
group, and it's really to give support to these kids, gay and trans kids, and to have a fun. It's fun. We play games. We do field trips, and we have a lot of fun. And
The trans kids, off subject a little bit, do they gravitate to each other? Do you find, or they get any other group of kids where they just no, I don't have anything in common with them. I mean, I like baseball. They like football. Whatever it is, I get kids gravitate. Is that,
well, when I work with high school kids, they have a lot. Their peer group has. Usually, there's trans or non-binary, or trans kids in the peer group. So,
And I think, Lee, to what you were saying before about what's going on with the current administration in Washington, right? And what Amy is saying. I think for young trans people, young gender non-binary people, having those groups has become more and more important, right? Because, for instance, we had Bernie Wagenblast on a couple of weeks ago, and Bernie was at the Stonewall Monument where they took the T and the Q off the monument.
Okay.
ridiculous.
Shortly after that, Trump, in his joint address to Congress, spent several minutes talking about we only have 2 sexes, 2 genders here in the United States. These young people in particular, when they see the leadership of this country basically trying to erase them, these groups become more and more important, and the work that Amy's doing becomes more and more important all the time.
Yeah. So that's right. So getting back to my original question, which I had lost track of because my brain. I'm in 19 different. By the way, I need to see you figure out how I could get the 19 different directions and
We
get
all
them
have to see you about that.
battle them into one.
Yeah.
But what are you telling people about Trump. What do you
Well,
tell me about the world today?
The kids are very, very aware of what's going on in Washington, and
Probably more so than most kids because
yeah. So the way to uplift the mood. I mean, there are different things happening, like in Parsippany. I don't have the date. This health center called Edge, which specializes LGBTQ, Edge Parsippany. Sometime in March, they're having a Trans Day of Beauty.
Okay.
So lots of get your hair done, and So all these, I seek out things to help the kids to uplift their mood.
Amy,
and
is the North
know that
Jersey-
there's people around that do care for them.
Is the North Jersey Pride site a good place to
Yeah,
find those
North Jersey.
resources and
Yeah,
those
get on their
events?
mailing list. Yeah, NorthJerseyPride.org.
And-
.org.
.org. Okay, so it's NorthJerseyPride.org.
And my teen group and I, we do have a table at Maplewood Pride in June.
Oh, good. Okay.
So you can come by and meet us and
Okay. Yeah. Now you take the table, you make it all you fancy.
hand out candy.
Hand out candy and everything, right? So it's very welcoming.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
everybody's
if
happy
you've
with
never
his
been in
food.
Maplewood Pride, it's one of the most fun days of
It's
the
a great
year.
day. Yep.
yeah, so it is. We got to get some of the Pride organizers on the podcast. Ian.
Should.
So,
Oh, that's a good
a
idea.
great
Yeah. So,
Yep.
okay. So Amy,
CJ Prince.
CJ Prince. Oh, I know
Yeah.
that.
CJ Prince is still here locally, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think CJ lives in West Orange, but you could
Yeah.
go
North Jersey Pride.
you could go or just whatever they say the directors are.
Okay, cool name, CJ Prince, by the way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind that as a last name, Prince. Amy, okay, parents out there,
Yeah.
you're listening, you're saying, okay.
Happy to talk to parents.
How do they reach you?
Oh, well, I'm on Psychology Today,
Okay.
and
Amy
you
Cox-Martins.
can just Google or Amy Cox-Martins. Yeah.
Okay, now, do you have like an answering service, or do you answer the phone directly yourself, or do you have
I
like a
answer the
secretary? Or
phone.
okay,
I have voicemail, but
your
yeah.
voicemail, okay, and you return those voicemail messages,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Okay, all right, just making sure that.
Oh, thank you, Lee.
Yeah, I want to make sure that everybody calls us. So, Amy, if you leave a voicemail message, she does call back. Not all people do. Amy does. So,
Yeah.
you heard it here
Great.
first on the Lee and Ian podcast.
That's right. Amy always calls back.
Amy
I'll
always
try
calls
to call
it. Yeah,
back.
she doesn't respond to my messages, though.
Don't forget where those messages are coming
That's right.
from.
It's like, Amy, don't forget we got the podcast today, and no response. Ian, did she get back to you? He comes
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm joking around, of
Yeah.
course. So, Amy,
Happy to answer any questions. I was recently contacted by someone who is involved in a Boy Scout troop and wanted to talk about how they could be more affirming.
okay,
So
great.
yeah,
like a Boy Scout leader, and
the troop leader.
so the troop leader is seeing things.
Well,
like
I
that.
happen to be friends with them anyway. They know
interesting,
me. They
but-
know me.
Yeah. By the way, good question. Boy Scouts. Where did the Scouts of America have they? I don't. I know that. Are they on board with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
That's-
and also there's a girls' Boy Scout troop. The girls
Okay.
can be in Boy Scouts.
Girls
now.
can be in Boy
Mhm.
Scouts.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
I think they're changing the Boy Scouts, right? Like it's not going to continue as the Boy Scouts of America. I think they're changing it to Scouts of America.
Oh, that would
I
make
heard
sense.
something about that just
Yeah.
recently.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense until
Yeah.
Washington threatens their
Well,
funding or something. You know, right. Yeah. So
Right.
I'm not even sure how that works. So if people are like, "There's no funding from," I don't know how that works, but I assume there is. So-
Probably. Yep.
Yeah, they're probably. Doge is on top of that, right? Yeah, Doge is on top of that. So, Amy, personally, never mind. Your practice. Now, politically, as far as you're concerned, Amy, where do you? I know that you're. We were joking around before that we launched the podcast. Today's podcast. Being quote unquote woke, and all that thing, and you're both very progressive people. I'm probably a little less.
Well, I
progressive.
like the way Ian put it. I do have a heart. My heart goes to the oppressed.
Yep.
Yeah, and what do you think the next 3 years is going to bring? Where do you never mind transgender issues, just the country as a whole.
Well, hopefully people will be. Well, I don't wish negative on people, but that they'll experience, more expensive everything,
Yep.
building supplies, whatever they, get from whatever we get. Where the tariffs will affect everybody, and I don't know if people realize that when they
Nope.
press the button in the voter booth.
They don't.
Right. So getting Mexico to pay for it doesn't mean that my eggs are going to be
happening.
cheaper.
Right.
Or my car is going to be cheaper anytime soon. So no.
My gas has gone up quite a bit in the last 2 months.
Oh man, and your
And
portfolio,
avocados
and,
apparently
and
are gonna
avocados.
That's right.
Yeah. No, everything that I need to go up is going down. Everything I need to go down is going.
Well, that's a whole other story. Right. Yes.
So, yeah. No, this is.
One more thing I wanted to say that my group did. It was very, very surprising that 2 businesses locally had some bias incidents against against the pride flag.
Here in the area.
And Pet Wants had a bias incident last year.
Okay.
And also this new wonderful restaurant in West Orange, or Orange, I'm not sure. It's called Harper's on
Yes,
South
I know
Valley
Harper's.
Road.
Yeah,
Very
Harper's
great.
wonderful, by the way.
It's a wonderful place. I
Yeah.
love it. And they had a bias incident when they had a pride flag out. Somebody threw black paint all over the flag and all over their window. And then Pet Wants, Jack Denzelback of Pet Wants, wonderful place, Pet Wants, if you have a pet.
Yeah.
They organized a march. And so my teen group, we marched from Harper's all the way to Spiata Park in South Orange.
Excellent.
Great.
Yeah, supporting these businesses that,
Very
everyone was so surprised that
Right.
locally.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, any more love, not hate. And that goes for everybody.
That's right. I mean, we can't assume we're immune.
Jew, Gentile.
Yeah.
You
We're
know,
not
this
immune.
This is a community that needs to more than ever stay focused on being together.
Yep.
It's some tough things going on right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So, Ian, anything else to ask our good friend Amy before
This has
she?
been
Well,
great.
thanks for having me. I really enjoyed
We loved having
coming.
you.
Yeah, Amy,
And I love the podcast too.
thank you for that. Yeah, Ian, give all the credit.
No.
Yeah, he's,
As I said to somebody the other day, I'm like the Robin Quivers to Lee's Howard Stern. Yes. Yeah.
I've been called.
Yeah,
worse.
you're Howard.
I'm Howard. I guess he's Robin.
You're Robin
Yes,
Quivers.
right? And so you can be Fred if you want.
Yeah.
We
Baba
need-
Booey.
Yeah, Baba
That's
Booey, right.
Yeah, we need a Baba Booey. Yeah, right. So we're working on it. So if anybody interested in becoming the Baba Booey of the Lee and Ian podcast, please send us your resume.
There we
and
go.
Right, and
Well, we only have so much room in the studio,
That's
so
right.
we've got
yes.
to be mindful of that.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. But but when we have great guests on like Amy, we can build the studio
That's
up.
right.
We can find
Yeah.
bigger space,
Sure.
more equipment.
That's
so
right.
so
That's right.
Right. That's why we bring in the hired guns
So
like
spread
Amy.
the words to your friends if you're enjoying the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Spread the word.
and let me see if you want someone to come to the teen group,
Yes.
just give me a call. My numbers.
So look on Psychology
Psychology
Today. And look
Today
for
is
Amy
the best way,
Cox
or Google
Martins.
my name, whatever. And you're welcome. We love new members.
Okay.
That's great.
Amy Cox-Martins with an S. You were the best.
And the demographic in the group is getting younger. We have 3 12-year-olds.
Okay,
12-year-olds.
excellent. All
Although we have 2 18-year-olds who are graduating high school, so they're going to be gone. So it'll be mostly middle school schoolers
Yeah.
as of June.
All right.
So yeah,
But it's great you're providing that resource.
Yeah.
And
it's fun. It's a fun group. We have a lot of fun.
yeah, and the sooner parents work with their children to understand what the underlying
Yeah.
issues are, the sooner your child can have a happy.
Yeah, and just listen to your
life.
child. That
Yeah.
they tend not to. I mean, unless somebody's really, really needy of attention and would, fake something, but it's not that common.
No.
And parents can reach out to you themselves, right?
absolutely.
Before
Yeah.
even bringing their child in, right? Which I think
Yeah,
is important
absolutely.
also.
And
Yep.
I love meeting with the parents
Yeah.
too.
That's great.
Amy Cox-Martins, you're the best. Ian
You are
Rodman,
the best.
Thank you.
you were the second
My
best.
buddies,
Oh, thank
Lee and
you.
Ian, the Lee and Ian
There
show.
we go.
Well, when I was renting with Ian, I thought Ian had a social work degree because he's such.
Absolutely.
He was
Many of
so
my mediation clients feel the
attuned to
same
the
way.
emotions of his clients,
Yep.
and he said, "No, I have a law degree. I
Yep.
don't have a social work degree."
Well, I've gone to Ian before for some legal counseling, and Ian, with Ian, when it comes to, it's always just, you have nothing to worry about, knock it off. Stop with that.
No,
Stop with
that's
that.
not how
Well,
I
Ian
am
was
at
my-
all.
No, I'm joking.
Ian was
But
my
he does-
lawyer
he does
for
comfort you
my
when-
daughter's adoption.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, were
That's
you?
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've said this before. Ian, my wills written by Ian Grodman. My wife's wills written by Ian Grodman. So, Ian, your practice, you do so much.
Yep. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And I know
Great lawyer
he's a great lawyer
and mediator.
and a
Thank you.
mediator. He
Yes.
is. By Ian
Most of
Grodman
my work is mediation.
Yeah.
It's funny. You know,
So how
your
can
daughter,
people reach you, Ian?
So people can reach me. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Amy. Through my website, grodmanmediation.com is the best way to reach out to me.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can reach me at the Coda. I'll be sitting at the bar.
Or
If
the,
you
gas,
need me.
There
or
we
the
go.
gaslight.
There we go.
Yeah, the Gaslight. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to the Gaslight in South Orange. Yes. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, until we meet again, have a great night.
Have a good one.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Amy.